Hello, I'm Jim Russell. I'm a partner and a wealth manager with Merit Financial Advisors. And today we're going to discuss protecting your assets. Now, there's several ways to do that, and it's a complex subject. It may not sound like it, but it is in fact a complex subject. So we want to protect your hard-earned assets. We know you want to do the same thing. So I've been in the financial business for several decades. You can probably see that. And by the way, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that we're all living longer. The bad news is we're all living longer. So how does that tie into protecting your assets? What happens if? That's always a big question today. What happens if somebody gets injured, somebody dies, something happens, God forbid? What happens to your assets? Are you set up correctly to pass those assets along and to protect yourself in the event that you're out of commission for the moment and somebody has to handle your affairs for you? So today we're going to talk about wills and trusts. In our next session, we're going to talk about durable power of attorney and the Georgia Healthcare Directive. All very important documents. So a will, and I want to read you this from one of the textbooks that I've had for quite a while when I took an advanced financial degree type course. Without a will, one may not leave property to charity, neither may a friend who is not related inherit any property from the deceased. If no relatives exist, the property will revert to the state. The property is said to have escheated to the state. It would appear that a decedent who died intestate, meaning without a will, technically had little concern for their property or where it went. So if you want your property to go from point A to point B to your relatives, etc., you must have a legal way to pass that property to those relatives or charities or wherever you want it to go. So people always ask me, does my will have to go through probate? I'm going to tell you a funny story. I was doing a seminar on this subject quite a few years ago, and I told the audience that every will must go through probate. And this lady in the background raised her hand. She said, "That's not true." And I went, "Okay, it actually is, but I'll listen to you." And she said, "Well, when my mama died, I just tore it up and threw it in the trash." And I said, okay, so everybody else's will must go through probate except yours. She was fine with that. So where does the word probate come from, and what does that mean? It comes from the Latin word to prove. So I'm proving that I own these assets and I have the right to pass them to whomever and wherever I wish. So it has to go through the court process. It's not that bad in Georgia, but it's a very important thing to do. Now, that's wills, and this is I'm doing this in a very short presentation, and I would urge everybody, every client, every prospective client, you must have an estate plan, and it must be prepared by professionals. Wills.com or whatever, it just isn't a great idea. So, the next subject we're going to talk about are trusts. And I tell members of my family and people, in trusts, I trust. So, how does that work? There are multiple different kinds of trusts, and right now, a lot of people are being sold revocable living trusts that don't really need them. Why? Because they're being told that, oh, by the way, if you have a trust, it doesn't have to go through probate. Well, that's a true statement. But the point of a trust is, if you've got a reasonably sizable estate and a complicated estate of any level of complication at all, a trust is a possibility. So what happens? If I have a trust, which I do, I have turned my assets over to that trust. The trust now owns my assets. However, there's some terminology that one needs to know. I am also the grantor of my trust. What does that code word mean? I'm the creator. It's good to be the creator. I'm also the trustee of my trust. Remember, this is a revocable living trust. It's changeable while I'm alive. So, and competent. So I'm the trustee. That's the code word for manager of my trust. So if my assets are in that trust, I can move them around, I can shift them, I can do anything I want with them. When I pass away, remember, none of us get out of here alive. When I pass away, those assets inside the trust will pass outside of probate, and they will follow my trust directives and be distributed per the rules of the trust. Now, inside that trust documents, I should say, is a pour-over will, spelled P-O-U-R, pour-over will. That will does, in fact, go to probate, because every estate will go to probate. But that will says to the probate judge, I have a trust. I had a trust because I'm now dead. All of my assets that are outside of the trust are to be distributed per the rules of my trust. Many, many different kinds of trusts. There are too many for us to go into today. There are irrevocable trusts. Once the assets are inside an irrevocable trust, they cannot be changed. So, under a revocable living trust, at the point of my incapacity and or death, that trust now becomes irrevocable, meaning it cannot be changed. So these are both very short, very simplified versions of these types of estate plans. We'll get more into it later and as we meet one-on-one, and we're going to talk about durable powers of attorney and the Georgia Healthcare Directive in our next video. I thank you for listening today, and please come back for the other videos.